All right, so welcome to day 2. I guess what's gonna what's gonna be isolation vlog plus camera test of some of the hottest smartphones on planet Earth to hopefully distract you from the fact that you are trapped indoors avoiding certain other activities. As far as an update, the vlog portion, the virus portion, around here we have now a state of emergency requiring a shutdown of restaurants and public spaces and gyms and all kinds of different venues. And where they're not requiring it, they are requesting it, essentially telling people to stay home. The world leaders were back going over their plans, their game plan going forward. I heard some numbers getting passed around in terms of when this thing will peak in North America, and there was a number they were talking about 45 days. I mean, they didn't want to commit to that number, but that's a big number, and it totally has to shift your perspective on just what this undertaking really is, what the commitment level has to be from the individuals who really, people like myself, yourself, we're just getting started with this thing. Like, it's not, we're at the entry point still, which is kind of a crazy thought because it feels like we've been doing this for a while now, even though obviously that's not the case. Well, this is day 2 for the studio. Yes, it's an empty place. The idea, if you recall from the last video, the coronavirus update, Unbox Therapy Studio staff is staying home update video, I came up with the idea of passing the time publishing videos around some popular smartphone camera tests. I set up some objects across the way, and I'm gonna flip the camera around right now. And over there you can see on that table there's a bizarre variety of objects over there. The way this idea goes, I will be picking a different smartphone. I have a whole stack of them. Each phone is going to have the same circumstance. Each phone is going to shoot the same objects, going to have the same lighting, the same environment, so the variables will come from the phones themselves, and then you can watch in an attempt to cure your boredom. I can't make any guarantees that will happen, and you can compare that with other phones that we'll test in the future on these isolation updates. Tomorrow, we'll pick another smartphone tomorrow, so you can actually suggest what that smartphone should be right now in the comment section. Another thing I want to ask you just before we get started, where are you in the world? And what is your current status? The country or the city, and whether or not you're trapped indoors or if it's not that severe where you happen to be at the moment. I'm curious, and I think the comment section could actually be kind of interesting and maybe make people feel slightly less isolated, seeing that there's a lot of other people experiencing the same thing. Okay, as far as the camera settings are concerned, this is a video camera test. And as far as the video settings are concerned, I'm using the highest resolution and frame rate possible while maintaining video stabilization. So in the case of the S20 Ultra here, that means 4K at 30 frames per second. If you step above that, the stabilization feature gets grayed out if you go up to 60 frames. So we're gonna shoot 4K, 30 frames per second. I'm gonna flip the camera around, and there you have it. And we are going to approach our variety of objects, which are placed in order of value from the least valuable to the most valuable. It's such a weird variety of things, but I think it's kind of fun. Anyways, so we're gonna start over here on the far side of the table. This is a highlighter, and one thing you're gonna notice with this camera right now, in automatic mode, it's kind of jumping around a little bit with the color temperature. Now, I can't blame it. There's some different light coming in here. We have the outdoor light and the artificial light. And this is just a realistic test. This could happen to you. You're asking a lot of your camera here to be able to automatically determine the color temperature. And we're also getting a sense for the autofocus and how it can struggle at times to pick up objects like this when they are competing with the surroundings. And it's amazing how much that blue color on the highlighter changes depending on the color temperature shift. Now, if you were outdoors with a single light source, you probably wouldn't experience that, but it's important to know that this is how these cameras operate, and we'll compare this to some other phones to see if they do a better job of maintaining a particular autofocus. Okay, so that is the highlighter. I'll now move to the zoom. Now, by default, This takes you up to 5x, and that's pretty impressive. And surprisingly stable. At least in my monitor right here. This one is also, oh, it lost focus up there. It's grabbing the floor, and then it gets it back. 0.5 ultra wide, and maybe I'll just move in a little bit. And each of these cameras performs quite a bit differently. And of course, it's a combination of software and hardware at play to create what you see. This is a $1 bill. Now I put this here for the purpose of trying to focus on this text. Well, there you have it. Obviously, it's focused quite a bit now. Even up close. Almost macro, borderline macro. This note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. That's pretty cool. That actually looks good on the stock camera. There is your zoom. Of course, I gotta move back. There we go. That's how far back you're gonna have to be. Quality looks pretty good, but it hunts a little bit for focus. Stressing out. 0.5. This is the wide. Wide. Obviously, you probably want to use the stock camera for something up close like this. I mean the default lens. Boom, that's your best look. That color balance is really all over the place. Our outdoor light over there competing with artificial light, even though they're pretty close in color temperature, this is a reality of shooting indoors where you have mixed colors. This is where cameras and the software inside of them and the various processing that takes place, it aims to kind of alleviate some of that. This is the world famous green plant, which cannot come, there it is, it's in focus now. A video test is good because it kind of simulates what would be happening to you. Your viewfinder or the screen is sort of like a live video feed. And a lot of what the camera is doing with color temperature and autofocus is something you may very well experience in the photo mode. Here is the Unbox therapy knife. For some reason that red doesn't really pop as much as I would have expected it to. It's the Samurai unboxing knife. Well, if I pull it out of there, bring it closer. How about now? Oof, color temperature, yellow. And that looks pretty cool. Very nice. So outside of the color temperature hunting, some pretty cool results going on. I'm leaving that on the table. We have a red iPhone because it's red. I mean, that's really the reason I picked it. It's just vibrant and red. And I'll spin it around a little bit. Now, I know some of you are probably saying, that color temperature shift is driving me crazy. But it's a reality of the situation. Most people are just going to shoot this video in automatic mode. And this is a reality they may very well face. And I kind of hate it. I think it happens too aggressively on so many smartphone cameras where, like, I mean, it's hunting, it's jumping around there with color balance. And I'm not even moving. I wish that this was a bit more subtle, but it's pretty gross. Now, obviously, you have the Pro mode for video, and that allows you to lock that white balance. But in automatic mode, I think it's worth analysis to see how it behaves, since this is how so many people are going to shoot video. And you can see the white of that speaker. That's the famous DVLA Bluetooth speaker, one of the most loved Unbox therapy videos. I don't know, people see me in the street, they always tell me that. They're like, the DVLA speaker, how does that thing sound? I'm like, well, you saw the video, you know. Wide. Boom, you get that big kind of like effect going on. And you probably noticed we've been going up in value with our objects in this particular test. We are now on the Sony A9 with a 24-70 f2.8 lens. This mannequin head goes way back to 2 studios ago, to the old office. Somehow useful for autofocus testing. I can see it's not getting focus, which is crazy. Okay, it's got it now, and it's got it there. And when it's in focus, it looks pretty good, but you feel like because it's a face, it should grab it and track it and not easily lose it. It's got it now. She is wearing my favorite headphones in the world right now. Those are the Sennheiser HD 820. Can we focus? Bam! And then the most valuable thing of all, of course, I had to throw it in. These are Lysol. Look at this. Disinfecting wipes. For something that's supposed to be the top dog, right? Obviously, this camera, this smartphone's supposed to be the top dog. There's a couple things you notice and note, and maybe I'll have a better handle on this as we move through this test with other phones. The white balance hunting is very aggressive. The autofocus leaves something to be desired. This is not news though. This has been talked about from the time the smartphone launched. Samsung even addressed it, I think, and said they were going to put out a software update. It's been nothing substantial, and still the autofocus just feels a little bit clunky or a little bit slow somehow. And that's demonstrated really well when you're doing a video test like this. When you have the main camera locked on focus, you're going to get some incredibly detailed images. Look, it is what it is. That's the test. It's in automatic mode. I'm going to treat all the other cameras the same. They got to perform in automatic mode. And the reason I'm choosing to do that is, like I said, I think that's the way the majority of users use these devices. You can give Samsung a few extra points in the background just because of the fact they give you the pro options. They make those options available in the menu if you do want to dive a little bit deeper, and if you do want to lock things like white balance and kind of override the automatic behavior. Image stabilization, yeah, there's a little walking test for that, walking and talking. Of course, the front-facing camera, I'm actually pretty impressed with, so that's a part of it too. The cool thing about these tests is that the entire video that you're watching, audio and video, is coming off of the device that you're analyzing. So it's Tuesday, it's day 2, being indoors mostly. Well, I've been indoors for longer than 2 days, but I mean, being at the studio alone, it is a weird feeling. It's a weird vibe. I'm not used to it yet. You're probably not used to whatever your situation looks like yet. We're up against something here. Obviously, it appears to be a fairly terrible thing that we're up against. It's an unfortunate thing. Nobody wants this thing to exist. It's a collective battle. And there's probably there's probably some type of upside in that. Well, maybe I'm just optimistic in general, but maybe there's some sort of upside that it sort of brings people together, gets people thinking about what matters to them, helps people connect, not physically, but connect on the internet that wouldn't have otherwise connected around a shared experience. Who knows? Yeah, I'm probably just trying to see the bright side, when in reality, it's pretty grim right now. It's weird. So many places, so many cities are just ghost towns, kind of a shell of what they were. And we're already living in a time where people are feeling increasingly isolated. I think you just got to make the best of it in general. We only have so much control over circumstances and situations, so you try. That's it. You try. I'm trying. Can't you see all those strange objects over there? I mean, if that's not trying, I don't know what is. Anyways, all right, that's our first camera test, Galaxy S20 Ultra. Leave a comment down below for what you want to see in tomorrow's test, and we'll also chat a little bit about whatever develops in the crazy world that we're living in 2020.